Site TalkingPointsMemo.com this evening. ABC's George Stephanopoulos defending the questions he and Charles Gibson asked last night, calling them, quote, relevant and appropriate. But in our fourth story tonight, during the debate itself, Mr. Stephanopoulos defended his questions by saying to Barack Obama, quote, if you get the nomination, you'll have to beat back these distractions. Distractions, such as more than 45 minutes worth before a single issue question. Stephanopoulos saying they asked about issues that came up since the last debate, yet reviving the old flag pin crap and asking nothing about ABC's own recent report that the U.S. vice president participated in discussions on how to torture people in the White House. Instead, until the 18th question of the night, rehashes of Clinton's Bosnia trip, the Reverend Wright's patriotism, the Reverend Wright's love of America, and repeatedly the fig leaf that Republicans will raise this stuff in November, as if journalists are now obligated to engage in pre-Swift voting. ABC asking not a single question about Afghanistan or Pakistan, but abdicating journalistic decision-making of its own to take dictation, literally, from Sean Hannity on Tuesday, writing Stephanopoulos a question for Obama.
The only time he's ever been asked about his association with Bill Ayers, the unrepentant terrorist from the Weather Underground, who on 9/11 of all days in the New York Times was saying, I don't regret setting bombs. I don't think we did enough. When asked about it by the Politico, David Axelrod said they have a friendly relationship and that they had done a number of speeches together and that they sat on a board together. Is that a question you might ask?
Well, I'm taking notes right now.
Those notes apparently accurate if last night was any indicator.
On 9/11, he was quoted in the New York Times saying, I don't regret setting bombs. I feel we didn't do enough. An early organizing meeting for your state Senate campaign was held at his house, and your campaign has said you were friendly. Can you explain that relationship?
Mr. Stephanopoulos, a former Clinton aide, also taking directions from the Republican candidate, launching a long inquisition on tax policy by quoting McCain's claim that taxes will be the top economic issue. Not health care, not jobs, not millions of foreclosures, not billions in taxpayer bailouts for investment banks, but tax cuts for the rich. Let's bring in Greg Mitchell, author of So Wrong for So Long, How the Press, the Pundits, and the President Failed on Iraq, and editor-in-chief of Editor and Publisher magazine. Greg, good to see you again.
Thanks to be here. Thanks.
From the journalistic standpoint view, this actually was, no joke, the worst presidential debate in television history, do you think?
Well, I've been following them since 1960, so it covers a long range of debates, some of them quite wild and wacky, as you know yourself. But certainly in terms of the hit that the media is taking on this, and specifically ABC, but I think it makes the media at large look bad, because this was a key debate. It was on the eve of an extremely important primary. It was in prime time. It was on one of the major networks, so you had millions of people looking in at a key moment. And I think that's why it's viewed so badly today. And I think, I think last night at about 8:30, that thump you heard from coast to coast was 50,000 shoes hitting TV screens. So I think we're really seeing that today.
Did we flip roles here? Did it go from journalists desperately trying to convince candidates or politicians to answer questions, to be substantial in their answers, to we're now at the point there that the politicians are insisting to the journalists, ask me a serious, responsible question, as we heard last night?
Right. It was Walter Mondale who said, where's the beef, to Reagan, not to the reporters then. And that was pretty much what Obama was saying between the lines last night. Listen, I think it was probably the pressure ABC felt for ratings, to outdo the other networks, to get those gotcha moments at the outset of the debate. I think there were good questions in the second half of the debate. I don't know how many people stuck around for them. And I think they showed their priorities and what the respect, their lack of respect they showed for the American people by front-weighting the trivial questions and only getting to the more serious questions at the very end.
See, but if it were a programming decision, all you'd have to do is look at the ratings for the previous debate, which was carried on this network, which resulted in this network, a cable network, a not universally carried cable network, having the highest rated hour in television that night between 10 and 11 o'clock for the end of the debate, the beginning of the post-game discussion. You don't have to sex up these Democratic debates. They sex themselves up. But this brings up the question, what was the George Stephanopoulos role in this thing? Was it to gain ratings, or was it something else? Because he relied on Sean Hannity's journalistic judgment, which just sounds like a bad thing to begin with, even if you're asking how's the weather. And the second thing, why did nobody ask until after this debate, senior advisor to President Clinton in his first term, co-moderator of a debate involving Senator Clinton, is that not just the appearance of a conflict of interest? Is that not enough of one for him to needed to have said last night, I got to recuse myself, I can't be part of a debate involving my ex-boss's wife while she's running for president?
Well, I know he has tried to set himself up as an independent journalist, so that would have been difficult. But certainly the worst thing he could possibly do is take dictation from Sean Hannity. I expected a question to Obama of whether he had anything to do with the Vince Foster murder. I mean, it was that bad. So I think, you know, if George had set out to distance himself from any even appearance of favoritism towards Clinton, that was the exact worst thing he could have done.
Last point, Charles Gibson, for whom I have great respect as a viewer and somebody who knows him just a little bit. The capital gains tax now at a whopping 15%. This was covered in depth, but what we got, and oh, by the way, what are you going to do about the price of gas, basically as the candidates are putting on their coats and leaving the building?
Yeah, well, if you remember the Republican debate in New Hampshire that Charles also was a host at, ended with him making a statement that professors at the small school were surely making over $100,000, which produced hoots from the audience. So,
from the professors.
So it's happened twice now. Two times he has drawn hoots or boos from the audience. So I think maybe they should chain him to the anchor desk and not take their chances with that anymore. Yeah,
it's a tough assignment. I know from my one limited experience that I'll never get to repeat again, but it's not that tough. Greg Mitchell of Editor and Publisher magazine, as always, great thanks.
Thank you, Keith.